Are you ready for the poly discourse? There's two distinct sides to this. That like it's one discourse, but there are two distinct like halves to it, and I'm going to treat them as such. So it's like interconnected, but two things. Okay, let's just do it. So obviously it's Pride Month, and Pride Month is a month that is not about actually celebrating Pride, but about queers fighting on Twitter. That's what I've learned over the years. No Pride Month would be complete without some poly discourse. And this time, yours truly and my lovely partners dipped our toes in the discourse water a little bit with this one. But to be fair, we are cooking. So let's take a look. So we'll start with where this with the first half of this. Yeah, the discourse arena. So my lovely partners, it's so weird to see my ex's definition of poly. Everyone must get along. Everyone must be connected. Fuck that. My only care for metas is that my partners care about them. Beyond that, they are strangers and not people I am choosing. Fuck this forced kitchen table poly shit. This is no different than your partner's friends. If I don't get along with them, why force it? I do not have to be friends with people I do not choose. Just like I don't have to interact with a partner's family, metas are the same. You are not obligated to be of a romantic partner's relationships. No, this does not mean isolating people is okay, fuck off. But unless that is something your lover is forcing, there is no reason to assume you must interact or get along with anyone. You are choosing a relationship with that person, and I believe that forced integration with others can lead to harm, as did with me and No's awful partner Amy. So this was Poppy's part of the discourse, and we'll go ahead and we'll get into mine in a second. But I want to start with this. So there was some discussion here. We had I prefer my partners to at least meet as kind of an integrity thing, assuring both parties this is consensual and not cheating, but beyond that, they're their own people. I'm not forcing shit. Poppy says not okay in my mind. One, all parties should trust your word. Two, why should I meet them? What possible benefit is that to me other than a panic attack? I don't know what this tweet said. I didn't get a screenshot before it was deleted, but I get the feeling that this is why I'm seeing locks in the user. And no, we're locked down for a completely different reason. This was like, I mean, it was tweeted before we locked down, but like not too long before. Do you need to be forcing your metas to interact with people, to interact with each other? Like, is it a red flag if you don't get along with your metas? So here's my perspective. I'm going to be honest with you. To be honest, I don't care. Everything is a red flag. I mean that literally. Like, everything is a red flag, because red flags are warning signs of things to be cautious about. It does not necessarily mean that like there is something wrong with a person. If I don't get along with somebody, is it a red flag? Yeah, I guess kinda. You can figure out, like, you can try to understand like why somebody doesn't get along. But I have no obligation. If it's not entirely like clear, I do completely agree with Poppy's perspective here. I have no obligation to meet my metas, or to engage with them, or to like be friends with them, or to want to have any kind of relationship with them. There is no obligation there. I should not have to. If that is something like the fundamental thing here is that, and people didn't like this take because people confuse desire with a requirement, with like a deal breaker. And that's fine. Like, if you can't be in a relationship with somebody because they don't want to meet your family, that's all well and good. That's not a problem with the other person. That's a you problem, to be perfectly frank. Here's the fun thing, okay? So I'm just gonna like, here's my example, right? So obviously, I'm taking this perspective on somebody as somebody who has been on like both sides of this. I do not have very good track record with my metamors. All of them, with one exception, have turned out to like be not great. If you know, you know. So there's some like trauma there. And I'm not going to sit here and acknowledge, or I'm not going to sit here and ignore the fact that there's like some trauma informing my desire to not like necessarily be around my metas. But I have had it work out. I did not start dating Xena and Poppy at the same time. I started dating Poppy first, and Xena and I became fairly close, and things just happened. And that's great. I'm open to that being the case for anyone. If I had like another partner, like let's say a third one outside of Xena and Poppy, right? If I have a hypothetical third partner and like they have, you know, their other partner and I meet them or whatever and like we become close or something like that, and now I have a fourth partner, I'm open to that being a thing. It's just not something I want like by default, and not something I think I should be compelled to have forced on me. Now, why do I have this perspective? Well, I'll get into it. This is where I added my bit to it. So we'll look at my part of the thread, because I think I did just like say it well enough in this that I don't necessarily need to I'm comfortable just kind of like reading it out, but I'll explain as I go along. So, to add to this, while I don't think there's anything wrong with integration conceptually, if everyone wants it, have fun, the expectation of it, I think, is built off of a really toxic overcorrection of societal stigma. Let me explain. And I know I'm going to do that in the rest of the thread anyway, but like, let me explain. If you've been around since the beginning part of this stream, you know, I mentioned something about earlier about like in the mental health community, people like trying to overcorrect for societal stigma by trying to sell things in a more positive light than they really should be. And I think the poly community really fucking does that a lot. I think like the poly community really tries to sell polyamory as like the solution to like relationships. And I think the poly community really does try to oversell as if we have everything figured out, and as if like jealousy isn't a thing, and like everyone gets along, and anyone who's poly, they just want to have like a big compound with like 18 people living in a house together, and everyone's dating everyone, and they all share the same bed, and just like there's no problems and everything's perfect. And that's not realistic. It's also, I think, not even ideal. Now, if that's what you want, if you want to have your compound of like you and your 18 fucking partners and all of their partners, and everyone lives in the same fucking house, and like everyone's getting along, and like you can manage that, okay, fine, go for it. Go get your fucking like thing in like North Dakota or whatever, and just like build your fucking like commune. I don't care. That's not like what poly is, like default. And I also don't think it's like ideal. Like, I think an ideal scenario is what it is on the tin, that people fucking are able to develop like deep and meaningful relationships with multiple people at once. And that doesn't mean that like everything's going to be perfect. Like, people get into fights. Like, relationships have conflict. And that's going to be the case not just with like the people in a relationship, but also like with like metamors. Like, the expectation that metamors need to get along, I think, is part of like this trying to oversell some sanitized version of poly, because we want to overcorrect for the fact that people think that everyone is a degenerate that is like polyamorous. And I think that that's not good. I think it's actually better if we're more honest about what poly is. It is complex, and it is messy sometimes, and sometimes people get jealous, and sometimes like people fight, and there are conflict with metamors and conflicts with partners, and like that's okay. It's fine that happens. It doesn't make like it a worse relationship style just because there are like flaws in it. This shit happens with monogamous people too, and we don't have to like overcorrect just because of that. Do you understand what I'm saying, right? We don't have to oversell being poly as like perfect in order to erase stigma. It's fine to sell poly for what it is. And also stop forcing your metamors to interact with each other if they don't want to. Like, you wouldn't do this with friends, by the way. And there's like, actually, no, I shouldn't say that, because some of you would. Like, there are people who absolutely would, and they'll like, because I've literally seen people say that like it is a red flag if somebody can't get along with their friends. I'm sorry. I am like, they're not my friend. They're your friend. And I've literally like navigated this in the past. Like my ex-spouse had friends that I did not get along with, that I really didn't know that well, and I had really no desire to, because the few times that I like tried to, the vibes were not there. And you know what the solution to that is? The solution to that is that my ex-spouse had friends that I didn't have, and I didn't have to be there all the time, and we're not a package deal. Like they can just yeah, it really does come across like people like trying to smash action figures together, like this forced like integration, forced meeting bullshit. Like, I'm sorry, it's toxic. Like, you're the one in the relationship, not me. I don't want to meet your metamors or my metamors. I don't want to meet your partners. I don't want to meet your friends necessarily. Or rather, I shouldn't say I don't want to. I shouldn't be forced to. It should be my choice. And if I say, nah, I'm out, okay, that's that then. But yeah, like I wanted to tackle that because I think that the idea that we have to sell this like sanitized version of poly where like conflict doesn't exist and like jealousy isn't a thing, and like all metamors all like get along and, you know, have a happy like giant like 14-person family. Like, fuck off. It's way more complicated than that. It doesn't have to be. Like, if that's what you want and like you can accomplish it, fine, cool. I'm supportive of you. It's just that like, I don't think that's the ideal or the standard that people should be held to. I think it creates unrealistic standards, and it actually makes it harder for poly to be seen as a realistic like relationship style, because we're trying to overcorrect for the societal stigma. So yeah, that's basically all I've got. We're just gonna cut the segment there. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to support my work further, consider becoming a channel member, a patron on Patreon, or donating through my Ko-fi or my GoFundMe for gender-affirming surgeries. Any help is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.